Warning, I say a lot of bad words. If you're under 13, you probably shouldn't be watching this.
It hurts! Streaking lights, loud sounds, and instincts are the elements that keep.
I have an interesting relationship with Mega Man. From the games I've played, I like most of them, but I'm bad at all of them. They're good fun with solid level design, cool robot designs and weapons, and some of the best music ever, but dear god, I cannot play these games without looking like a goddamn idiot. Trust me, if you saw me playing one of these in person, you'd probably just shoot me on sight out of pity and disgust. I first got into Mega Man with the X series, and it was definitely a first impression. It took a darker, more story-driven turn compared to the classic series, with results, but I do admire a lot of what it did to evolve the series going forward. That in mind, I've noticed that this run of Mega Man is pretty inconsistent. A couple titles are some of my favorite 2D platformers of all time, but everything else ranges from solid to okay to X6. I first played these games on the PS2 X collection, and I hated the final game on it so much that I basically stopped there. Also, hearing that X7 was even worse, and the fact that it cost my entire left kidney didn't help either. I've heard nothing but bad things about X7, and there was no way I was gonna buy it standalone. Then Capcom re-released all the X games again a couple years ago, this time with X7 and X8. So now I have no excuse. May God help every single one of us. Because this is a Japanese PS2 game trying to be hip and cool, we start with the montage intro, and I'd say it's pretty effective at telling the player to burn their disc and play something more worthwhile. Man, just what I like. Animation at 10 frames per second and PNG keyframing so basic, I could do it. We open up on a drug deal, I think, between two people who we know nothing about and just get killed 20 seconds later, by a character who sounds congested.
I guess you've heard of Red Alert.
I hope you like that acting. It doesn't get any better for anyone. Also, X apparently became a peace-loving hippie off-screen and doesn't want to fight anymore. So, some new group called Red Alert formed because X became a pussy and someone needs to do something in these very trying times.
Why must Reploids fight one another?
Because capitalism.
I've had enough violence.
Okay, $20, X says he's done with violence in the same way that Miyazaki says that he's done making movies. So the actual game begins with the new guy who had a cold at the beginning. Mega Man is typically really good at teaching the player through clever level design and enemy placement, and X7 is also really good at teaching the player how to hate themselves. The game immediately throws you into a claustrophobic environment with lasers every 2 steps you take, and it's damn near impossible to actually learn how the mechanics work to deal with the bullshit. And then we switch to 3D, and oh no. This is bad. This is so bad. This whole game feels like dumpster sludge, but in 3D, it feels like dumpster sludge mixed with a box of old rusty razor blades. You'll quickly learn that enemies are worthless to fight, and the lock-on straight up doesn't work. But look on the bright side, we can at least play as Zero now.
I can't believe I'm back here again.
Ah, brilliant. Acknowledging the fact that you're reusing Central Highway to get away with the fact that you're reusing Central Highway. Genius! Just hit a bunch of shit with your sword. That's it. It's very clunky and unintuitive, like everything else in this game.
Oh, this has become a real pain. I want a full explanation when this is all over.
I feel like Zero channeled the spirits of every person who has or ever will play Mega Man X7. We cut to a bunch of dipshits yelling at each other, which I skipped because I want all of them in their terrible voice acting to shut the fuck up and die. By the way, the new guy is named Axel. You don't care, do you?
Are you stupid?
Okay, was that directed towards Zero or toward the player for putting up with this crap for so long?
I had no idea they'd send that kind of gear after us.
I get the feeling the voice actress's direction was just sound like a whiny bitch. Okay, I'm mostly gonna gloss over the story because it's such a non-presence throughout the game, and to be honest, I'm not exactly invested in what I imagine is probably very impeccable writing. So yeah, I'm sorry about that if you were expecting more. We've gotten past the first level, and so far, this is bad, but it's not unbearable, I guess. I wonder how long it's gonna be until I regret saying that.
Ready?
Can you hear me, Axel?
That was quick. Look at this depth perception. I'd love to know who thought this looked okay so I can write them a letter to calmly and politely explain why this doesn't look very good. This part in particular can fuck off because the ship explodes out of nowhere and the janky physics made it so much more difficult to get past than it should have been. This was the first level I chose and my first impression could not have been worse. I spent an eternity trying to figure out how Axel's gliding works because dumb. I thought you pressed the button twice to glide like in every other game ever made, but apparently you hold down the X button without letting go to glide. If you let go, you stop gliding and you can't glide again without jumping again. I died an embarrassing number of times before and after figuring this out. God knows the tutorial didn't help much with it. That aside, the level is just boring. Its setting is cool, but it's way too cheap looking and it doesn't really do anything interesting with the idea. Sonic Heroes, you are not. Next I chose the Battleship level. To be fair, it's not as bad as the Airfleet level. Still pretty bad though. It took me a while to register that the beginning of the level was 3D instead of 2D because, and this may surprise you, the game doesn't do a very good job differentiating the two styles from each other. The only real indication you get is the game telling you in the top right corner, which I'm convinced was just put in because the game is so bad at making both sections distinct that it needs to flat out tell you what's 2D and what's 3D. This stage is just tedious more than anything. There's so many enemies and exploding things and 50 mini-bosses everywhere that my brain is just numb and I can feel myself being overwhelmed with exhaustion. Doesn't help that the camera is especially awful here, and you can't control it at any point until the level's boss fight. Also, random 2D section where the water graphics fuck with depth perception. Thank you for the headache, game. Next we go to the jungle. It's competent, but lousy. It's definitely better put together than any level so far, but it's mostly just a boring generic jungle level you'd see in 50 other, probably better games out there. Also bees. Fuck bees. Also, you shoot a gorilla to death. Literally the only interesting thing here are these floating Easter Island motherfuckers. You probably noticed I haven't really said anything about the Mavericks, and that's because there's only so many ways I can say they suck, they take too long to kill even with their weaknesses, their designs are stupid, their voice acting sounds like a flock of geese being murdered, and the abilities you get from them are about as well utilized as Captain Phasma. Literally I can say that for every Maverick in this shitfuck of a Mega Man game. Next level, I'm in a vehicle driving on a racetrack picking up bombs on a time limit. If that sounds horrible, it is. Very. Admittedly, I played through this one and probably some other sections beforehand with Rookie Hunter mode on, so I imagine I had an easier time with this level than I would have normally, but still, this is just pathetic. Compared to the vehicle levels from X4 and even X5 for how awful Squid Adler's level was, this is weak. You're painfully slow even at full speed, you can't turn around, so if you miss a Reploid or bomb, you have to make another lap around the level to hopefully pick them up next time. And there's enemies everywhere and hitting them makes me hate video games. It reminds me a bit of those driving levels in the Sonic Adventure games, except about as fun as sleeping on a needle bed. Again, I played this level with Rookie Hunter, which you might call cheating, but come on, it's X7, does anyone actually care? Also, I beat the boss by just standing in the middle of the arena and firing like a dipshit. Next. What the fuck is this thing? Am I seriously going up against a robot vegetable? Oh god. I try to avoid calling anything in a game lazy, no matter how bad I think it is. I know game development is a really hard position and it's often thankless, but damn, they just gave up on this one, didn't they? It's just a straight path to the top with a few enemies and BS obstacles. That's it! They didn't even try with the Reploid placements, they're just sitting out in the open in rows of 3. There's not even any platforming in the first half, just dash to your heart's content. In the second half, there's a bunch of pits that make you lose a ton of progress if you fall into them, many things that'll guarantee you fall a bunch of times, and more pits right by where you land which can easily make you fall even further down if you aren't paying attention. Great game design! This is the worst level in the game. Also, the boss sounds like Rolf from Ed, Edd and Eddy if he hit puberty and got a throat infection.
But I grew up Pepsi Boy!
And yeah, the mission ends with Onion Boy dying. In between levels are brief clips of Zero and Axel talking so the game can pretend it's telling a story and fleshing the characters out. But it's not. They're just a game finding new ways to say "Red Alert bad" again and again. It's not even worth caring about what's going on because the writing is garbage, the acting is terrible, and the conflict and stakes are about as strong as me at the gym doing literally any kind of exercise ever. Oh, and we finally see the two villains, Red and Mysterious Man Dude, talking about something. Now, I don't mean to potentially spoil this masterful narrative for anyone who hasn't played it yet, but I have a bit of a feeling the mysterious figure's name might sound similar to Ligma. Ligma balls. From the look of things, I managed to collect enough Reploids to unlock X as a playable character. He's basically just a glorified cameo for most of the game until this point. And you probably think it's really dumb that the main character of the series needs to be unlocked before you can play as him. And you're right, it kinda just goes against X's whole no violence thing that he developed exclusively for this game for some reason, but you know, the writing beforehand wasn't good, so why would it start now? I unlocked him with 5 Mavericks beaten and 3 to go. God damn it, game. I tried X out one time in Flame Hyenard stage and then proceeded to never use him again. At the end of every stage, all the Reploids that you save give upgrades to the characters you've been playing as, which for most of the game has just been Zero and Axel. So by the time you unlock X, he's so weak and takes damage so fast compared to the others that it isn't even worth playing as him at that point. Yeah, but who cares if Mega Man is the worst character in X7? He's only the main character of the entire fucking franchise! I made the unfortunate mistake of taking him and leaving Zero when I went to face Flame Hyenard, a boss that I'll say is goddamn hilarious when you have Rookie Hunter mode turned on. Look at this! Look at this disaster piece! The momentum of the giant robot makes you slide around, the boss's whole game plan is a game of ring around the rosies, you can be knocked down and pounced completely out of your control. It's so beautiful! And it's all made complete by the melodic harmony that is known simply as Burn to the Ground.
Burn! Burn to the ground! Burn! Burn! Burn to the ground! 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 Burn! Burn to the ground! Burn to the ground! Burn! Burn to the ground! Burn to the ground! Burn!
I tackled this guy with Rookie Hunter because at this point I pretty much just kept it on constantly instead of incrementally. Seriously, screw playing this game the way it was intended. And I was laughing my ass off the entire time. It's incredible what they achieved here. Now we're fighting a robot kangaroo. God give me strength. I'll admit, I actually do kinda like this level. It's not good. It's plagued by every issue the rest of the game has, the camera is especially terrible, and the enemy gauntlet thing in the end kinda ruins it all, but I did have more fun with this stage than basically any other part of the game. I guess it helps that I'm a sucker for mech combat, even if it is janky as hell, and at times it felt like there was almost an accidentally clever use of the 3D gameplay. I don't know, I'm just really stretching to say anything good about this game because the bar's been set so low, and it ain't coming back up. By process of elimination, the last level I tackled was Cyberspace, I guess. To its credit, the stage is probably the most visually interesting in the game, and yep, they ruined it. I kinda just stumbled through this one like an idiot until I got to the end. There's these parts where I think you're supposed to use Axel's copy ability. Oh, and by the way, Axel has a copy ability. I literally never used it once in the game, and to be honest, I kinda forgot he even had it. Anyways, the last stretch of the game starts with the most boring chase sequence in gaming history where it's auto-scrolling and the camera is focused more on the obstacle than on the player. Great start! Also, this happened. Can this game just stop? Please? Forever. Then we're doing a boring 2D section with the slowest obstacles ever. We kill the villain guy who showed up about 3 times beforehand with the single worst boss battle in the entire game because it's so specific where you can hit the guy and you're constantly trying to jump over tiny platforms above an instant death pit. If I didn't have Rookie Hunter on, I'd probably be fuming, but right now, I'm just so damn done, it's not worth it. Call me stupid, but I legitimately did not know you could actually rotate the camera until I got to this part of the game. There's huge chunks of the game where you don't get camera control, period, and I just assumed it wasn't a thing after a while. Considering the rest of the game is the most incompetent thing in human history, I wouldn't have put it past the game to be largely 3D and not even bother programming camera control. I imagine there's probably some point where Aelia tells you about the camera, but X5 made me never want to listen to anything she says ever again. I instinctively try to control the camera with the right stick like a normal game, but that just switches the weapon you're holding, while camera control is L1 and R1. Wouldn't it make more sense to switch those two around? Also, you can only pan the camera left and right because dumb. This is Mega Man, so before the final boss, there's a boss rush and it's pretty inoffensive as far as they go. You know, if you ignore the fact that every single Maverick is total ass garbage.
Burn to the ground! Burn to the ground!
Nope! We've thankfully gotten to the final boss, and it turns out the guy who looks like Sigma, that the game did a piss poor job hiding the fact that he was Sigma, turned out to be, in fact, Sigma. We get a 2D boss fight that's pretty par for the course as far as X7 goes in the first phase. In other words, it's only bad instead of outright awful. In the second phase, we go into space for some reason. Then we're back on Earth. Who gives a shit? The game's almost done.
Oh, with this power, I'll never lose!
Oh yeah, Axel can shapeshift. That amounted to a lot. X still has the whole hate boner against violence thing, Axel is still a whiny bitch, and Zero... The end. I had more fun with Life of Black Tiger. God, I am sorry for being so hard on X6 for so many years. Okay, not really, I still fucking hate you, but people weren't kidding. X7 is so much worse. Even as someone like me who's mostly just a casual Mega Man fan, that was one of the worst video games I've ever played. I was hoping that maybe I'd get some ironic fun out of it, but nope, there's no fun, just pain. When it's not frustrating, it's just flat out boring. I want to give the game credit for trying something new with Mega Man with being 3D, but it takes so little advantage of being in 3D that it's not even worth giving credit. In 2D, the game is slow, clunky Mega Man, and in 3D, it's a poor man's Ratchet & Clank prototype. There's probably a lot of stuff I missed, and I can't really say I care. The Legacy Collection's Rookie Hunter mode was the only reason I could stomach this game, and I probably would have dropped it on the first level had I played the original PS2 version. You might call it cheating, I call it a painkiller. I really hope this game had a fairly low budget because, yikes. These visuals do not hold up. It's one of the most stiff and emotionless attempts at cel shading I've ever seen. Wind Waker and Sly 1 came out before this game, and they look way better. So yeah, glad I played that game, that was an excellent use of my time. I guess to end this on a more positive note, I'll at least say that X8 is actually pretty alright. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better than the 3 games before it. For as low as that bar goes. God, I really need a palate cleanser after this. No!